welcome to the LDG Experience podcast. We are on episode 23, and today we are going to be discussing the Chaos Undivided in Fantasy.
Yes, we ran out of time last week.
I was going to say...
So now we're going to do it in its own episode altogether.
Yes. She didn't ask us how we were. She doesn't care anymore.
No, it's because we missed an episode. It's like we finished it straight away and we get back to it.
Yeah, no,
who cares how we are?
Who cares how we are?
Yeah.
And I can't even...
Barely conscious.
One of us has just woken up. The other two are barely much more awake because we slept through 3 alarms this morning.
Did we really?
Yes, we did.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember a single one of them.
I fell asleep.
That's the point.
Yes, that's the whole point.
If you did, you'd have woken up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So anyway, the thing of it is, we've no segues or anything. We're just going to get straight to the plugs of stuff. So we are, of course, Lazy Dragon Gaming. We can be found on YouTube, all places where you can find podcasts where you can listen to this. If you are listening on YouTube, we would appreciate it if you were to hit the subscribe button and ring the little bell for updates and things. For we are growing. We are now at 108 subscribers as of recording, but some of our shorts have got many, many views. So we do all sorts of things on this channel. This is specifically for YouTube. We do pack openings for 3 different games, Lorcana, Magic and Pokemon. We do this podcast, shockingly. We also do Your Naughty Knitter. No good nodding.
Yes.
Right, thank you. She does this all the time. You're like driving along, you ask her a question, she nods.
We'll put subtitles up for those people who can't see this.
You can't see this. We also do my streaming, which is for Lorcana on Pixelborn, and that can be found on Twitch at LD Gaming Live if you want to tune in live to that. And the last thing we have is the website, which of course is lazydragongaming.com, where you can pre-order all sorts of things for all sorts of games.
You forgot one.
I know, the new podcast, which is about to go live tomorrow as of recording. Fuck. As of recording, the new podcast, Lore Quest, with myself, Evie, and our good friend Harry. Although the second episode is actually just going to be Evie and Harry, because I am going to London for the Comic-Con to help Julian.
Oh, exciting.
With AJTCG, yes. Which is where we do our streaming from, is AJTCG in Preston, where you can find all manner of Pokemon-type goodness, especially if you're a fan of Japanese Pokemon stuff. It's a sea of imported things for Pokemon. But that is where we are. Pete, where can you be found?
Occasionally down the back of the sofa.
Other than in bed.
Yes, I can be found at Onyx Dragon Gaming, that's on Twitch and all various social media platforms. I'm streaming Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, where we are painting all sorts of various things. We're on a bit of a special character binge at the moment, so I've been painting all sorts of things from Rabute Gilliman to Gazgal Thraka. Currently, as of recording, working on Angron for 40k.
He will still probably be going on then.
Yes.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, like I kind of, because this is the thing, I was painting these characters thinking, that'd be good for a week's content, and then finishing them in a night or two, being like, damn, what do I do? So I was like, I know, I go bigger. That way it'll slow down.
Give me something larger.
Yeah, so we might be working on Carbander soon as well, who's the mega blood. Well, not me. I was going to say medium bloodthirster, because like you got your regular bloodthirster, you got Carbander, then you've got Angrath the Unbound, who's like the really really big bloodthirster from Forge World. So yeah, he's kind of like the medium to large bloodthirster.
Medium to large bloodthirster.
Yeah, because I'm having so much fun with Angron, I thought, why not? And I've also been messing around with all my Demon Legions recently, rebasing them for sale, which you can find on Onyx Dragon Gaming on eBay. We have lots of things up for sale at the moment, loads of everything from armies to just special characters, so please go check that out. And if you want to add any of our lovely painted stuff to your collection,
or you can commission.
Yes, or you can. Yes, commissions are open for.
Especially if it's a character, it will apparently be done very quickly.
Yes, a lot quicker than I expect. Yeah, so
and to a very high standard. Pete is a phenomenally good painter, and one day will enter Golden Demon and do well, and then be able to promote said Golden Demon on all these things, and we can introduce him as Pete, winner of Golden Demons.
Yes,
and then he can have a Golden Demon to go with his grey and purple and orange demons.
Yes,
yeah. Anyway, enough of demons.
Moving on. Well,
kind of. Before we get into Chaos Undivided,
indeed,
I would like to quickly cover why the Chaos Gods have not won in either 40k or Fantasy.
Yeah. And they kind of did a bit in Fantasy, but we won't really talk about that.
Yeah.
They didn't really.
So. No. So that was mostly the Skaven's fault.
Usually.
But the reason they haven't won is something called the Great Game.
Yes. Because they don't think of themselves as one force. Really. Whilst there is Chaos Undivided, who are most, the 4 Chaos Gods and several minor gods, and because that's the thing, there are also other beings and things in the warp that aren't quite as powerful as the 4. But the problem is they all want to be on top. They can't think, hang on a minute, all 4 of us could be, we could win and then we can figure out what's happening. They're like, no. One of us has to reach the goal line first. So this used to be represented way back in this. Here's a bit of like old lore. There used to be a 5th Chaos God known as Malal. He went out quite a while ago. In 40k, he somewhat lingered a little bit with the Sons of Malice. Chaos Space Marines were used to be the Sons of Malal. But Malal's whole thing was he represented Chaos's self-defeating nature.
Oh, okay.
So that's the point, is that the problem is the more powerful they get, the more likely they are to fall to infighting. As they sort of get closer to the goal, closer to the finish line, sort of usually, a big horde that's combined of all 4 of the gods' minions, one of them will probably be like, well, I could do this for Zinch. If I screw everyone else over, if I dig dastardly the lot of them, if I rush to the finish line and then set up right there rather than cross it and try and kill them all, then I could be the winner. And that's kind of the problem with Chaos, is that, they stop looking at the enemy. They kind of look at the enemy and kind of go, well, you're finished, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But we need to, when we finish you, it needs to make sure that I'm the one that's on top of the heap.
Right.
So...
Yeah, so it's like having a 4-person race.
Yes.
Where all 4 people are trying to trip each other up on the way.
Yeah, so rather than being like a relay team, where they're like, let's go, make it round, they're like, no, they're all running, they're all like, well, I want to be the one on the top step of the podium. And as they get closer to the finish line, they start like trying to trip each other up.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the problem with Chaos. That's why they never really truly win, because that's the thing with all these little negative emotions, is they're not really conducive to help and support.
No.
And love and friendship and all that sort of stuff.
And that is the reason that Chaos will never win.
It is one of my... it makes me think of one of my favourite little sayings from science fiction, from the series Andromeda, which was, the enemy of my enemy is next.
Yes.
And that's kind of very much like Chaos's opinion on themselves.
So they do work together at times.
Yes.
But inevitably at some point.
It's usually under some of the people we're going to talk about now. It's usually under the control, under the sway of some huge, really powerful, being or entity or whatever. And then if things start going a bit tits up there, that's when... Because also the gods don't like failure a lot. So, even if it's a slight stumbling block, it's usually and now you're a spawn.
Yep.
You had all the promise and now, no, you are now goop.
Yep.
So...
Right. So, with that, we shall move on to, I believe... Do you want to start with the Ever-Chosen?
Well, yes, because they're the most important. So,
okay.
In the Warhammer Fantasy universe, there is this concept of the Ever-Chosen, who is... So, when people thought, Archeon was called the Archeon the Ever-Chosen. He was the first one we saw in-game. But he's not the Ever-Chosen, he is just the current Ever-Chosen. So, it's usually a being... that is like the great uniter of the 4 powers into a large host to then destroy the mortal world. The first Ever-Chosen is somebody you might recognise both in 40k and Fantasy now, who is Be'lakor. He was one of the first demon princes, and he was crowned the first Ever-Chosen. He did okay, but he also then failed, like they mostly all do. We're not really sure. I can't remember exactly why or how that came about, because it's way ancient history. But his punishment from the Chaos Gods was that he had his mind basically ripped away from him, so he had no concept of who he was or what he was until the crowning of the next Ever-Chosen, in which point he would slowly get his mind returned to him, and he was forced by the gods to crown his successors down throughout the millennia. So he would eventually, his mind would coalesce, and then he would be forced to anoint the next Chaos Ever Chosen, basically wanting desperately to strangle them and rip them apart, but not being able to because of this sort of geas he'd been put under by the Chaos Gods. And yeah, that kind of made him a bit angry, quite a lot. Eventually, when it comes to the storm, well, he had managed to break out a couple of times, if I remember rightly. He kind of vaguely gets away from his kind of prison a few times and does a few things. The most notable is it's kind of a retcon. Is one of your favourite games, Tom?
Ooh,
Moortime.
Ooh,
yes.
I love me some Moortime.
Yes. So in Moortime, there was a presence in Moortime known as the Dark Master.
Ooh.
Who was this shadowy figure, who, like a lot of the Chaos warbands and stuff, were trading the Warpstone to for power.
Yes.
And the Dark Master is one of the titles of Be'lakor.
Ah.
So it's one of those things where you read it through and you go, oh, that's interesting.
Ooh.
So yeah, it's implied that it was him trying to gather as much Warpstone to gather power to then be able to break free permanently.
Ah.
He didn't finally manage to break free permanently until the Storm of Chaos, which was Archaon's attack on Middenheim, and his sacking of Kislev and things like that.
Much sacking was done.
Yes, much sacking was done, and he got stopped at Middenheim by a grand army of the light. But Be'lakor himself managed to sort of free himself from his curse. This was kind of heavily also implied that because Archaon was going to be the last ever chosen.
Yes.
Which kind of did work out.
Kind of.
But retroactively later,
yes.
Several years later. I remember a friend of mine getting really, really angry after the Siege of after the Storm of Chaos, because they were like, and Archaon fled to the Brass Keep where he licked his wounds and carried on, and he's like, no! He should be turned into a spawn! What is this? So he was not happy about that, but it is what it is. But yeah, so Be'lakor, he gained his freedom and became the head of demonic legion, his own demonic legion of undivided things. It's quite interesting. He came across. He was. They sent the Grand Theogenes Volkmar. If those people remember that special character, he was sent against the forces of Be'lakor as he was marching through various areas, and Be'lakor beat his army quite badly. I think it's actually in a battle report. You get to see that in a battle report where he gets beaten. And then he killed him, basically. So here we go. In the frozen cold lands of Kislev, the Be'lakor was drawn to a certain place, and upon arriving, recognised it as the battlefield upon which Volkmar the Grim had faced the Everchosen. Sorry, it's not him, it's the Everchosen, that was it. He'd faced the Everchosen, he faced Archaon in a battle report, and got killed. And they killed him off in character. So he was Be'lakor was that's pretty cool, but you know what's really cool? The power of a really awesome Priest of Sigmar. So he was nearly dead, and had all his magic items smashed, and sensing a means to assert his superiority over Archaon, Be'lakor drew forth his most ancient magics and laid his hand upon the chest of Grand Theogenes' body, dragging his soul back into his body, and then he nailed him to his standard.
Oh.
Yeah. He had him taken up and chained to his battle standard, from which his agonised cursing and wailing of the priest could be heard and his writhing body seen. He did eventually break free and come back, because they were for there was a bit while they were oh my god, the Grand Theogenes is dead. And then he breaks free of Be'lakor's thing and comes back and he's like, I'm fine. And they're all like, are you though?
Are you really?
But being Volkmar and being the angriest man alive in all of the Empire, he was like, shut the fuck up!
I will now go and yell at chaos until it falls apart.
Yeah, pretty much. That's him.
I believe
Volkmar's hilarious.
Volkmar the Grim, right?
Yeah, Volkmar the Grim. Because he had frenzy and stuff. It was great. The best way to kill him was to land an eagle in front of him because he was on the war altar.
Yes.
If you got near a wood, you'd land an eagle in front of him and be like, ha ha! And he'd be like, argh! And he'd charge into the wood. The chariot would explode. If you got the chariot hit a wood, it would die. Yep. And then he'd just come out the other side dragging this massive jade griffin, just angry on the other side. It was great. Volkmar is a hilarious character, so as a bit of an aside. I remember him from the old Dark Omens video game.
Yes.
It was brilliant because Carl Franz would just always seemed to have had enough of him, because you'd be in the briefings and Carl Franz would be talking to you about what your next mission is, and then Volkmar would come in and be like, my lord, the chamber unbreachable has been breached, and he's like, again, a beast made entirely of thumbs. These are just lines that I just remember, and it's just Carl Franz is just fuck's sake, Volkmar, just stop it. That's a bit of an aside just because he's really funny.
The chamber unbreachable
has been breached, and then Carl Franz again, yeah.
Maybe we need to rename this chamber.
Yeah. But no, he was entertaining. But yeah. So yeah, that's Be'lakor. I'm not really sure. Like
I have something a little different.
Okay.
On the wiki.
Ooh, is this where I'm misremembering?
Maybe, because according to this, the first ever chosen.
Yes.
Was someone called Morcar the Uniter.
Okay.
And he led a chaos invasion against a mortal world where he was slain in single combat by Sigmar Heldenhammer.
Right.
Yes.
I think here we go. So I think now it's coming back to me a bit. See, apologies for this. I'll retcon my own discussion.
Retcons. Yeah.
So because he was a demon, Be'lakor.
Yes.
He was like a preeminent demon.
That's right.
He was the leader before mortals kind of were.
Yeah, because
discovered.
Because the second ever chosen was Van Gaal. And he bound the greater demon Uzhal into the magic sword called the Slayer of Kings.
Yes, so this is where it goes on.
And he was killed in battle against Gromreer Goldfist, so I imagine a dwarf. He sounds like a dwarf.
So so I remember right now it's coming back to me more because it's like 30 years of history in my head.
Yes.
Be'lakor, whilst he would have been an Everchosen had he been mortal.
Yeah.
Because the Everchosens are always mortal. But he was like the first big general of the Dawn Legions, and he got a bit. The problem was he got a bit big for his boots. And was like, I should be a Chaos God, and the Chaos Gods were like, no, dickhead. Also, we've discovered this whole mortal thing, so we don't need you anymore.
Yep.
And that's how I got bound and told,
so
crown these mortals.
This is the bit where...
Very sort of Lucifer-esque, like the whole, what are these mortals doing? I am better than all these mortals.
So then I've got an unknown Everchosen.
Yeah, because they go through,
called Caradun the Glorified, which is, the number is unknown, not the...
Yeah, we don't know. There's only a few that we know bits about.
So,
the ones, because the thing is, as we'll touch on in a minute, is... to become the sort of modern Everchosen, whoever you are, you have to unite. Part of the quest to become the Everchosen is you have to gather 6 artifacts together, and the sixth one is the crown. Like when you get it crowned.
Yes. So this is a bit. So Caradun was possessed by Be'lakor.
Yes, because he tried to.
In order that he could serve as the true Everchosen in the guise of a mortal.
Yeah.
Once. Caradun had already been selected for the role by the Ruinous Powers. Yeah. He was unable to take the crown of domination, which is the final thing, and Caradun's body simply crumbled away to dust due to the Everchosen's fury at his possession and the stress of containing the soul of the mighty first demon prince of Chaos Undivided. Yeah. So so that's where sort of Be'lakor...
Yeah, he has a bunch of schemes down the years where he's like, this is what I'm going to do to try and get around the...
And then his punishment then, I imagine, is to crown the other ones. But then it jumps, because that's we don't know, so we've got 1... 2.
So the 2 is important because he's the one that creates one of the artifacts.
Which is he makes the Slayer of Kings.
Yes, which is a cool sword.
It is awesome.
I have wielded it. It is ace.
And then we have an unknown one, which could be the 3rd one, or it could be the 11th. It's more likely to be 3rd or 4th.
Somewhere early,
because of the crown. But then we jump to the 11th.
Yep.
Which is... Azavar Kul.
Yes, a name.
The Anointed.
Yes, so Azavar Kul will be an important name in the old world.
Yes.
As we return, because in about 50 years, I believe, at the current timeline point that they've selected, he will lead his great. He will become the Everchosen and lead his sort of charge on the mortal realms.
The Great War, unleashing the Great War,
which is with Magnus the Pious and Teclis and all these people, and the Siege of Prague.
Yes.
I believe is where Magnus the Pious defeats him and is crowned emperor properly. None of this 3 emperors nonsense anymore. Yeah. I'm properly in charge.
Yeah. But Azavar Kul...
Yeah, he's one of the ones we know a bit about because he was like... There's that particular war is quite well documented in the history of Warhammer.
So he was a Chaos Lord in the Kurgans, which is obviously in the high north of the Empire.
Kurgans, yes.
You don't want kicking in the Kurgans, that would be really bad.
No.
He basically defeats a Kislevite and Osterland army, and the horde made for the cities of Prague and Ergrand, sacking everything in the way. Kislev itself was under siege, at which point Magnus the Pious, the defenders of Kislev, and the dwarves of Kaza Akarak
Yep.
In what became known as the Great War Against Chaos. Kull was slain in the conflict, and his armies were ground down by the victorious defenders.
Yay! And there was much rejoicing.
There was much rejoicing. And that took place in 2301 Imperial Calendar.
Yes.
Which is about 50 years.
I think we're about 2250, roughly.
Yeah.
I think is where we're at.
From where we're at.
In the current, but also not current.
Yes.
It's very confusing when you talk about things that,
which are in the present past.
But it's in the old world, which is the new old world, which is
in the past.
But it isn't the new world because that's not the new world. It's the old world of the old Warhammer world. It's very confusing.
Yeah, too much.
Yes.
But, suffice to say that in the time that the old world is set.
Yes.
We are just before that happens.
We're on the build-up.
We're
on the sort of events that lead to that mighty event.
Yeah, which is going to be awesome if they ever do the campaigns for that.
Yeah, I'm hoping if we get a lot of if the old world is successful, that we get a chance to really
that would be awesome.
See that and be like, oh yeah.
Do you know what the items are?
The 6 items.
Yeah,
right.
I know 2 of them.
So we've got the Slayer of Kings, the Crown of Domination.
Yep.
The Steed of the Apocalypse.
Yep.
The armor of. I think it's the armor of Morcar. I think that's what it is. It's his armor, the first ever chosen's armor.
Oh, okay.
I think. So what's that? That's 4.
So you got sword, crown, armor,
steed. The Eye of.
Somebody.
I want to say Eye of Shirian. But that made me think of
the eye of what's it?
Ed Sheeran, yeah.
Ed Sheeran.
I think that's it. Let me give a quick. And the 6th one. So we've got this. I'm trying to remember.
What's the last one?
Yeah, that's the hardest bit.
Yeah,
I think it's the mark. I think it's like the mark. There's a special chaos mark that you get. I think it's been a while since I've like I said I know most of them, and then you sit down and go. I can name all 18 flipping 19 implants in a Space Marine. Can't name the 6 chaos things. Yeah, this is the kind of thing that might stuck in my brain. Yep. There's no reason to know.
No
one should know what any of this stuff is. This is part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast. I'm finally getting it out there.
Finding stuff. Right, so, after much searching,
yes,
we have figured it out.
Yeah, I know. I knew 5 of them off the top of my head, and I was sure that the 6th one was a mark of chaos.
Yes.
Of some description.
So it is.
So
go on.
Yeah, he's named the Eternally Burning Mark of Chaos.
Yes.
Which probably itches somewhat.
I would imagine it does.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get a cream for that.
It was the first part of his quest. He had to go to the altar of true darkness in Nagaroth, the land of my favourite people, the Dark Elves.
Yes.
He gathered a small band of Curse Warriors named the Swords of Chaos, who will become relevant later on.
Yeah.
And he basically, he sort of fought through the altar, and then, he sort of reconsecrates this altar in the middle of it to Chaos, and as a reward, he came out. And they were like, yay! He comes back out of the thing, and he's got the mark of chaos burned into his forehead.
Yep.
That would be the classic 8-pointed star, probably the really cool one that has the 4 sub-symbols in each quadrant.
Yes.
Which is quite cool.
Then he had to go and find the
armour of Morcar, the first ever chosen. Yes.
And it makes the wearer invulnerable to all but the most powerful attacks.
Yes.
He left Nagaroth on a stolen ship made of black metal. Pulled by a sea drake.
Yes, because back in the day, if you've ever played Manowar, which was the sort of ship combat game for Warhammer Fantasy, the Dark Elves had they're most famous for their black art, which are literal cities that float on the bedrock that they're ripped from. But their smaller ships were pulled. Some of them were pulled by mystical sea creatures.
Ooh.
So that's why.
So he basically went for 6 days and 6 nights.
Yep. Because you've got to do something like that.
Yeah.
It's got to be in a good story. It's always like some days and some nights.
Yep. He delved into the necropolis and found the tomb of Morcar. Within lay the armour of Morcar. However, as he reached out to take it, the spirit of Morcar animated the armour and attacked him. It lay down a relentless fury of blows until Archon cursed it in the language of the Umbrogan tribe?
Yes. Which, if those people know, the Umbrogan were the tribe of Sigmar. The person who defeated. Because this is the thing about Archeon. One that we haven't mentioned yet. Archeon used to be a priest of Sigmar.
Yes.
He was a disillusioned priest of Sigmar who got sick and tired of this whole light religion thing and decided, no, I've had enough of this. I'm going to become the biggest bane that the Sigmarite world has ever seen. And then fecked off to the Chaos Wastes. And the Chaos Gods were like, no, I see.
Quite good. Yes, let's try that.
So he knows, this is what makes him kind of quite more powerful than, say, some of the others, is he has a lot of knowledge of the light side. So that's what he's using here, is he knows that Morcar was slain by Sigmar. So he uses that knowledge and curses him in the language of the Umberogen. And then I'm assuming hoofs him in the pods.
Yeah, so then the attack ceased for a moment.
So he kicked him in the spiritual nards.
Yeah, and and Archeon smashed it aside, banishing the spirit of Morcar and allowing him to claim the armour. And then he went after next
the Eye of Shirian, or the Eye of Shirin.
He's now known as the Eye of Shirin.
Yeah, a foul red-headed sorcerer. Bewitched people with his dastardly tunes.
Yep.
No, the Shirian was a Tzeentchian sorcerer who discovered the original the Eye. It can help see the future. That's basically what it does.
Right.
It has prophetic powers, but it's also designed to fit in the last of the treasures, which we will come to later. It's designed to fit into it and move on. So yeah, he had to defeat the Chaos Dragon Flamefang, who basically had a bunch of massive treasures, and being a Chaos Dragon had also some weird magical doodads. And Archeon was like, I don't have time for this nonsense, and smashed an axe into his forehead. This kind of upset the dragon, as you can imagine. And they battled for a long, long time. And then, he swallowed Archeon, but got really, really angry because the armour of Morcar kept him alive, and he just kind of lost his shit and just ripped and tore and bit his way out of the throat of the dragon and just completely tore up his insides, which killed the dragon to die. And then he was like, right, cool, awesome. He took the Eye of Shirian, put it on the thing, hung it around his neck for a while. Moved on.
It will always be the Eye of Shirin, as far as I'm concerned. Yes. So, and then he departed from having been swallowed by a dragon to find a worthy mount known as the Steed of the
Apocalypse,
or
Durgar, which is the one we know him mostly by. He also has many other names.
He does have two other names that I am not going to try and pronounce.
Gershi Ishfach.
I'm sure it was.
And Iron Tali.
By the way, the second one is spelt, for those listening who want to write this down, Ghur SHY apostrophe ISH apostrophe PHAK.
It's spelled fuck. Like fuck. Like with a PH.
With a PH.
Little joke there for people who've seen them through the gentleman.
Yes. So the demonic steed was stolen from the menagerie of the demon prince Angramon, which sounds like a Digimon.
It does sound like a Digimon.
In the realm of chaos. He battled his way past the demons guarding Angramon's palace and sneaked, according to this, as opposed to snuck, inside, hiding beneath the beast that was part man, part mammoth.
And part insect.
And part insect. Yeah. It was a man-bear pig. Or in this case, it was a mammoth insect.
Yes. I like how it described here as like, it was inside the menagerie was every beast imaginable, and some that are not. Yes. And I'm like, yes. Like the platypus. I assume they were just in the corner somewhere and they were like, what is this foul chaos beast? And they're like, it's a platypus. What does it do? It's basically a beaver that has poisonous fangs and the bill of a duck. Like, it is definitely some foul chaos beast.
It also is a mammal.
That's the point.
And it lays eggs.
It is a monotremes.
It is
one of two species. Yeah. The other being the echidna. There we go. There's a little bit of
natural history.
Natural history for you.
Yes.
But it is the nearest thing we have to a chaos beast in this this world, because it is just.
Oh no! You see, I think there's another one that's closer.
What's that?
Have you ever met a chihuahua?
No, that's a hound of chaos. That's different, right? Chihuahuas are the hounds of chaos, just in a body that's far too small for them to
I imagine that the
mass death and destruction.
Chihuahuas are the hounds of a really shitty chaos god.
Yeah.
And they are so pissed off with the world that they made that because it was the best they could do.
I feel like they were like massively powerful chaos hounds that in a previous existence and world, and they were like cursed and bound into bodies that could not actually wreak devastation and destruction.
Yeah.
And they know it. They're just really it's that kind of thing. If I was like the size I used to be, I would destroy you, mortals.
I've gone right off chihuahuas.
Yeah.
Yes, Evie was almost savaged by one while stroking it, and it was very happy. And then it wasn't.
Then it suddenly realised what it was. It was like, wait, I'm a hound of the apocalypse! Ah!
So anyway,
yes. Moving past the menagerie.
He
stole this horse.
He basically nicked it, and it changed shape and burst into flames.
Yes.
And it's also worth mentioning at this point that later on in the story, Durgar actually changes shape again.
Because it has multiple shapes. It doesn't have a fixed form.
And he becomes a colossal three-headed dragon.
Which should have 4 heads.
Yeah,
it's really... bugs me too.
It's very annoying. Because Archaon the Ever-Chosen of Chaos Undivided, there are 4 primary Chaos gods, and his mount has 3 heads.
Is it Slaanesh that doesn't get a look in?
I think so.
Yeah. Because part of me was like, maybe the tail, in the same way like a manticore thing. You know,
maybe,
or the Chimera, which has got like... That usually classically had like the head of a lion, head of an eagle, and then like a tail was like a snake head as well.
Yeah.
I wondered at first. I was like, oh, maybe the tail's going to be like the Slaanesh bit.
No. Do we think that maybe they just kind of went? We could think of a few things for Slaanesh, but they all involve penises.
Well, no, because it could have looked more. It'd be like the steeds, you know, with that sort of anteater type looking.
Maybe they tried that and it looks a bit daft.
Maybe, or I think it was also at the time where I feel like they would. I don't know whether this is true, so don't like take this as gospel. But it seemed like there was a very brief period at the beginning of like Age of Sigmar where Slaanesh kind of got really sidelined. Literally, he got sidelined. Like he was captured by the elves.
Yep.
And there was very little mention of Slaanesh for a long time. And I didn't know, like, there was a lot of people rumours go around that like, oh well, because of the whole overtly sexual nature of it and the kind of stuff like that, is that maybe Games Workshop had like, as a way to be more sort of, you know, younger friendly, we're trying to sort of quietly move that away.
I heard the same thing.
There's a lot of rumours. I don't, unless I speak to anybody like can confirm it, I'm not going to say one way or the other. But maybe that's why the 4th head was kind of not done, was because they were kind of trying to quietly sideline Slaanesh.
Yeah, maybe.
But I don't know.
I don't know whether it was that or whether they were trying to come up with a way to do it. Like design models that fit Slaanesh but were kid friendly.
I mean, because also from a story point of view, having Slaanesh be captured by the elves is kind of a cool mirror to how he is in 40k, obviously, where he's the bane of what is effectively the space elves. Yeah. So it was kind of a cool thing. I liked it from a story point of view, but at the same time, anyway.
Yes, moving on. He's now got his eye, the eye of Ed Sheeran.
Yeah.
He's got his armour of
Morcar.
He's got his steed.
Yes, and a really itchy burning mark on his
forehead.
And
a really itchy burning mark.
That you really should see someone about.
Yeah, so he's got the clap, he's got Ed Sheeran, he's got his horse.
Yeah.
And he's off now to find...
one of the most famous swords in all of Warhammer, the Slayer of Kings.
Yes.
So, quick aside here, little anecdote from my history, my life, is... there was a brief period where Games Workshop were teamed up with I believe it was Ravenforge. They teamed up with a company to make replicas of some of the most famous swords from Warhammer.
Yes, I believe
you can see or could see two of them hanging. They only ever released one, and the second one never quite got released, but there are quite a few prototypes around. So the first one they released was the Slayer of Kings. It's in black carbon steel. It looks freaking epic. It's got all the weird, like, sharp bits on it, and it's got a really cool hilt. The second one that was going to be released was Tyrion's sword, Sunfang, which was really cool because it had the cool elven look. It has all the runes on it. It even has the notch in the blade that was put there by the head of the Dark Elf Blackguard, Coron, when they fought. Yep. Which I thought was really cool. But that never really made it past like the initial prototype. It was never fully on sale. It was only on sale for a brief period. Anyway, to my personal history, there was a time when I worked for Games Workshop, and I worked at Games Workshop's head office, and I was in charge of the archive, Games Workshop's archive. And I was trying to sort out a bunch of stuff one day in the art section. There's these massive map chests that are just full of all the original art that had been made over the years, and there was absolutely no organisation. I was slowly trying to figure out how to organise them. Anyway, I opened one of the bottom drawers, and inside this bottom drawer is one of the copies of the Slayer of Kings and Sunfang. Now, I'm a man, or more importantly, I'm a boy. And there are 2 swords in there. There are no cameras in the archive, and nobody comes in here. So, of course, I'm like, these are 2 of the most powerful magic weapons ever made in the world of Warhammer. And I was like, I've got to do it. Yep. So, obviously, Slayer of Kings in one hand, Sunfang in the other. There's a good 20 seconds where I'm like, hiya! Just because I'm telling you, if you're a guy of any age, you will have had it's the same urge you have when someone hands you a model plane, right? You have to make it fly. You have to fly around with it. It's just it's something ingrained into the brain of all men. But yeah, when given the opportunity to pick up a cool looking sword and wave it around a little bit, especially when no one's going to judge you,
no one's looking,
and no one's going to look in, then you're going to do it. So yeah, there's a little. You can picture me you probably don't know why I look at, but you can picture a nerd waving around two massive swords in a room that's mostly dark, just full of bars and boxes.
To be perfectly honest with you, your girlfriend uses a sword for her work.
Oh, it's true. Yeah.
And she has handed me said sword in the scabbard.
I'm not saying that women also don't have this urge. I just know that all men have this urge.
I know some women will look at two swords and go, eh. I know some women who would look at two swords and go, fucking yeah!
But I know that there's an itch in the back of someone's brain, like the man's brain, who's like, the only reason they don't do it is usually because there are people around.
Usually their wife is around.
Yeah, there are people around who are like, I'm going to be judged for this.
Yeah.
But if it's just guys, especially, you're going to be like,
they're gonna get
do it, dude! Do it!
They're going to get passed around.
Yeah, so, anyway, that's a little silly aside. But yes, so the Slayer of Kings, back to how he got it.
Yep.
And what it actually is. As we said before, this is the Sacred Blade of Vangel, the second ever chosen, which contains the bound essence of Azul, which is, and the millennia of imprisonment in the blade have sent it insane with rage and fury. I remember that at some point, it used to be that you could unleash the power of Azul in the game. So you could, once per game, you could be like, and I'm going to switch it on and let Azul do his thing.
Yeah.
And he would just go nuts. Yes, here we go. It says here, yeah. So he doubles his number of attacks, but any rolls of 1 will strike himself or a friendly model in base contact because the demon's is like, I don't care, I want to be free. And once you switch, there's not once per game. He says once you switch it on, you can't switch it off. And also whether it's been released or not, Slayer Kings also ignores armor saves. So if you get hit by it, it was like, it's going to go through my armor anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's see, where was he? He timed the visit to rest at the top of Chimera Plateau, near the top of the world. So somewhere in the North Pole, effectively.
Yeah. Full of chimeras.
Yes.
By which we mean actual chimeras.
Literal chimeras,
not the 40k tanks.
Yeah, not a bunch of rusting tanks. Yeah, there was actual 3-headed beasts.
Yeah.
So he had to batter his way through a bunch of chimeras, makes it to the top of the plateau, looks down upon them, because he's obviously imagine if Mount Everest was at the North Pole. So he's up there, there's a big thing, he's like, fuck yes, I've got this sword now. And he's screaming, being like, fuck all y'all, I will destroy the whole world. The problem was, then the mountain then turned over in its sleep.
Yep.
Because it was not actually a mountain, but it was the original Dragon Ogre, Kraken Rock the Black. Now, this is, like I said, this is a Dragon Ogre the size of a literal mountain. Archeon was like, I'm cool, but this guy's the size of a mountain, peace out. So he took the sword, in order to not make anything worse, he stopped shouting and cursing the world, grabbed the sword and fucked off.
So real quick one. Prince Ograx the Great,
yes,
the strongest of Archaon's companions, was able to lift up one of Crackerak's talons high enough for Archaon to retrieve the demon sword.
Yes.
And that's when the demon had a hissy fit. And started to wake up the dragon.
Yes, and shrieking.
Yes.
Krakenrock starts being like, what the fuck's that noise?
Yeah.
And thinking fast, Archeon was like, it wants blood. Algarox, stab!
Yep.
And just stabs him in the chest. And then the sword's like, nom 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 nom. And shuts up. So he's like, cool, yay, now I have the sword. And that's how he gets the sword.
Yes.
Then we move on to the final treasure.
Yes.
The one that will literally crown him
the
ever-chosen of Chaos. The one, and this is the Crown of Domination. Which once held the Eye of Sheeran. So it's designed,
every time I just imagine,
I
I can't help it now.
It's basically a cool chaos-looking helm, but we've got a third eye slot.
Eye slot.
Plop in the Eye of Sheeran there.
Where Ed Sheeran turns up and starts singing all
Yes.
sorts of melodious songs. I can't help it. I'm sorry. I'm a terrible person.
So decades after finding the Slayer of Kings, he had no clue to the whereabouts of the ancient helm. Eventually, Bellicor revealed its location, planning to steal the crown after he was located. he located it. Because obviously at this point Be'lakor is slowly coming back to himself because he knows there's a clarion of Everchosen. So of course it's time for evil plans.
Yes.
So he's like, yes, the crown lay in the first shrine to Chaos, high in an icy peak in the World Edge Mountains. So Be'lakor leads Archeon up the mountain, classic sort of like road figure style, and then they stood before the massive double gates to the shrine, and obviously Be'lakor's like, you'll find it inside, you must go in alone.
You must go in alone.
Yes, so he goes through, the gateway was a labyrinth, was filled with dire beasts and vengeful demons. Archeon was tested by each of the Chaos Gods to see if he was worthy to be the Everchosen. Nurgle gave him the clap.
Yes.
Which he fought off with sheer willpower. He was like, get this water off my dick! Tzeentch created a labyrinth of crystal, but Archeon was like, fuck this noise, and shut his eyes, so he couldn't see shit, so he got blinded by his reflection and was like, ha, screw you, Tzeentch, and then found his way out. Slaanesh sent him pictures of boobs and penises and all sorts, but Archeon was like, no! I beat one off before I came in here, so you have no power over me! And then carried on.
It says here, Slaanesh sent temptation after temptation, but Archeon resisted.
See?
Never diverting from the path to the inner gates of the shrine.
That's what I said.
Basically, Slaanesh loaded up Pornhub.
Yeah. And then Archeon's like, no! You
I will not fix your dishwasher!
No! Your fridge can stay broken!
I will continue.
Yes. So then he was like, right, that's it, 3 down. So then he marched passing through the inner gates. Archeon found himself surrounded on a narrow causeway. Classic.
Narrow.
He basically had to fight a Balrog.
Yeah.
Because this is what it said. Because suddenly, he's got this big, massive causeway with a nice little thin, bridge on it. And then a mighty bloodthirster of Khorne erupts out of the flames. Literally, you can picture this because it's exactly what happens in Lord of the Rings.
Literally in Lord of the Rings, yeah.
Yeah. Archeon was like, cool, but I have my own magic shit. It says here, he wrestled the bloodthirster's weapons away and strangled it with his own whip.
Yeah, not really very Gandalf-esque of him. But,
Yeah, to be fair, that would have been really cool if Gandalf had just been like, rather than be like, you shall not pass, he'd be like, give me that thing. And he's like, fucking choking the bastard out, like, who's your daddy now?
And he smote him
on the mountain. Yeah. And there's the Baron's just been tapping out, like, tap or snap, there's no referee here. Anyway, God, I don't know what's come over me today. So yes, the Hellfire then dies away after he kills the Bloodthirster.
Yes.
And he's standing at a simple shrine. A throne stood at the back of the shrine with a wizard corpse sitting on it. On top of the withered skull sat the crown of domination. Archeon took the crown with his wounds healing and frame swelling with power because it roids you out apparently.
Yep.
And then all he needed that was a coronation, which was then, that's what Be'lakor is then. He tried to steal the thing, couldn't because that's when his gear sort of comes on and he's like, shit, no, I want to take it. No, I'm taking it. Yes, no, run away. He's like, no, shit, no, don't put it on his head, you dickhead. So, yeah, and then Archeon becomes the Archeon we all know and love.
Yes.
And plots his revenge on the mortal world.
So that leads us then to the bit that we don't like.
Yes.
Because he doesn't actually do much in the history of the old world as Archeon the Everchosen. He does kill Volmar, but he does lead a big...
He has his big
moment.
horde moment.
Yeah.
He gathers to himself 4 champions.
Yep.
One each of the Chaos Gods.
Do you have said champions?
I do. Here we go.
While Pete finds the 4 Chaos champions, basically he does his big thing and loses.
Yes, in the original thing.
In the original story of it.
Because we talked about this before, we touched on it briefly, is that when the worldwide campaigns happened, I should say, there tends to be a lot of things versus chaos, or a lot of things versus one faction. The problem with that is they get dicked on.
Yeah.
There are lots of stuff and measures behind the scenes to help nudge things and keep them relatively on track. The funniest thing was they thought Chaos would do really, really well, because Chaos is quite popular as an army in Warhammer Fantasy.
They are, yeah.
And they still are. They've always been one of the most popular armies. But because they have this thing, there's a massive cannon on Middenheim, which I can't remember the name of it, but it's this ridiculously huge cannon, and it has to be loaded by a giant. That's how big it is. It was going to be if Chaos was going a bit too well, they were going to use this cannon as a kind of, like, to help even the score, so to speak. Ulrich's Thunder.
Ulrich's Thunder.
That's what it's called. Yeah, found it at the same time.
It's at the same time, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lovely piece of artwork of it.
It is fantastic.
With this giant, hefty and massive thing.
Yeah.
So, but the problem was, they were getting so fucked, basically, Chaos at this point, that in the storyline for Storm of Chaos, they had Clan Eshin basically murdered the giant.
Of course they did.
Yeah, they said no, because they were like, shit, we now need to sideline this cannon, because we're already losing really badly. So they were like, and he gets murdered. But yes, so, here we are. I found the appropriate passage to talk about his great horde.
Yes.
This is under the box head, The Prophecy. So this is the Prophecy of Fate, taken from the Celestian Book of Divination by Necrodomo the Insane. So, a reliable source.
Yes.
Forged from the other world, 6 treasures shall he possess. Upon his head the crown shall see all, and open eye will prove woe to mortal kind. Then shall he ride unto the world. There will 4 be united into 1, and 5 shall be the armies of doom. Then will the world know that the last war has begun. With the coming of doom will march a lowly boy. Anger shall be his nourishment, and blood his wine. And from the land tamed will rise a champion. Disease shall be his downfall, and saviour divine. A king's son shall be chosen, in power he will thrive, and glory in his name. And with the coming of the end times, the old will fall by the hand of the new. So this is basically naming the 4 champions of Chaos that were like the head of the 4 powered armies, effectively. So like you have the Swords of Chaos, who are Archaon's personal bros. They've been in with him since the beginning. They've been with on his cool little quest. And obviously they get bigger and bigger as they come across new tribes, and they're like, wacky stick! You're now enchanted, not part of us. So yes, we have, representing in the red corner, we have Hargoth, the Blooded One, a mighty champion of Khorne who began his life as a simple farmer boy and has risen to preeminence in the eyes of the Blood God. So there are 4 White Dwarfs. I can't remember the exact numbers right off my head, but each one of them had like a long story. Had the story of each of these 4 champions, because when the 6th edition Hordes of Chaos book came out, they were like, Chaos was the thing. So each Archaon had just come out, and then each of the months afterwards, there was a new thing about the particular Chaos Gods and how they were doing, and there would be this story which would tell the story of how this Chaos Lord came to be the big mighty Chaos Lord that he was, and then at the end it was usually and then Archaon came along and was like, bro, you're cool, come join my ranks, and they were like, sweet bro, let's go kill everyone, or something to that effect. A bit like the Emperor in 40k fighting the Primarchs, it's kind of a bit like that. You've got the story of each Primarch, you've got the story of each of these Chaos Lords. So we started off with the Khorne one, then as I said, in the green corner, we have Fator the Tainted, champion of Nurgle, whose entire village was struck down with plague, but he alone was spared and embraced his most powerful saviour.
Okay.
Classic kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, somebody help me. And Nurgle was like, I got you, fam. Then in the oddly pink corner, we have Styrkar, of the Sortsviner, blessed by the Dark Prince Slanesh, a Norse king whose people fell at his feet in adoration and worship. And then finally, in the ever-changing coloured corner, we have Melek the Changer, with his mutant child, Sisbeth, touched with great Tzeentch, who cut down his Iceling shaman to lead his people alongside Archaon. So yeah, I think if you remember rightly, there's the kid, he is like a guy, he has this kid who's ridiculously powerful in magic, but he's also a bit twisted, and the old shaman's like, oh shit, if this kid grows up, he's going to be really powerful. But he's also twisted, so he'll be like, you need to kill him because he's going to be shit. Even though he knew very well he wasn't.
Yes.
And this guy was like, hell no, I'm not killing my kid. Killed the shaman, and then in some weird thing, I think he ends up getting physically bonded to his malformed son.
Oh, so,
he's one being, but he's got 2 faces. It's weird.
It's very, very, very Tzeentch.
Like I said, the stories are really cool. They're you could probably find them online now.
Yeah, you can.
Like I said, they were in White Dwarf. They were really cool to read at the time. This is what I call the peak era of White Dwarf. We had a lot of really cool...
Definitely.
You had some really cool hobby stuff. You had great battle reports with the awesome diagrams, which I really miss. And we also had a lot of really cool background lore stuff, which doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but in the grand sort of lore thing. But it was really cool, seeing the backstories, where these big Chaos Lords came from. They're only ever really mentioned in the Storm of Chaos. They're not really big. They weren't official special characters.
Yeah.
They were just the 4 named dudes.
I think it's really cool because I think it just fleshes out the game a little bit, and it's
it does. It makes you get to see the world a bit more.
It's something that I actually want to touch on in an episode at some point. I was thinking about it today, and it is the difference between the lore and the game.
Yes.
So I won't go too deep into it now, but I don't think that the game of fantasy, be that any of the games to do with Games Workshop, the big ones, the smaller ones may be a bit different. I haven't played them all, but I remember from Mordheim it works better.
Yeah.
But in the big scale games played on the big boards, you're not playing that lore very often.
No, it's one of those things that as games get bigger and the number of models you have, your abstraction gets higher.
Yes.
And also, in terms of games, it's the classic argument about Space Marines. It's like, Space Marines in lore are these amazing, like, super warriors, right? And you're like, but the average Space Marine army is like 50, 60 Marines, something like that, roughly. And they get slaughtered all the time.
Yeah.
Like, if that happened, that would be like a ridiculous tragedy. Like, 60 Marines is enough to, like, take over an entire freaking solar system.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, there is a massive abstraction between what is depicted on tabletop and what is described in lore.
Yeah. So you when you meet a Space Marine in lore for 40k, you are meeting a almost demigod superhuman that
it's like meeting Superman.
Yeah. Like,
realistically, it's
and that's just a Space Marine. Never mind a Primaris Space Marine, which are actually technically bigger and better. Bigger and better. And then you're talking about a captain who, and then when you get to chapter masters and chaplain, named characters. So, and we've been through loads of them, but it's like Grimaldus, for example.
Yeah.
Like, if you were to be in the presence of Grimaldus, you need ridiculous willpower not to start crying and shaking.
Well, they talk about it a lot in the Heresy novels. They talk about something called transhuman dread.
Yes.
Which is just the pure, like, sight of these things and what they can do. Because everyone, like, the problem is a lot of the depictions of them in, like, games and stuff, they don't really move the way that that gets explained. Like, they're faster than you are.
Yeah.
Like, even though they're huge, people obviously you expect things that are big to be slow and ponderous. And Space Marines are not. They can move and react way faster than any human. And it's that disconnect.
Fast enough to keep up with an Eldari. They don't want to because the Eldari are quicker.
Obviously, I know why they don't do it in depictions.
Yeah.
It's because your brain would be like, that's stupid. That's silly.
Yeah.
Like, they have to kind of tone them down to something that your brain can comprehend, because at the end of the day, it is a story, and if you don't believe it,
it has to be believable, right? But so in the lore, which is what we discuss, we don't really talk about the games much because neither of us really play anymore, and most of us, honestly, I haven't got time for the game, to be perfectly honest, for 40k and fantasy. They're too big and they take too long, and I'm so busy I don't have time. Things like Mordheim, which was probably my favourite of all the games. That one is lore centric because you're doing
same with Necromunda.
You're doing things that affect the characters.
It goes back to where the origins of these games come from, and they're effectively especially look at like Rogue Trader and the additions of Warhammer. They are glorified role playing encounters.
Yes,
they have like the rules of tables on tables on tables.
Because all good role play games good role play games have a table that you roll on.
Yes,
and when you get a result, you then roll on a different table.
Oh yeah.
And if you're really lucky, when you roll on that table, you may get another table. Yeah.
It is that thing of going, and I think that's why games like this. Why I'm a massive fan of Necromunda for the same reason.
Same reason,
is that you have these small characters. You have like a bunch of characters, maybe up to about say 10 or so, and the more you play, the characters, like I said, they get their own story, and there's so much lore and description about the world, especially these days. Like Necromunda these days is fantastic. Like, I argue it's one of the best looking model ranges in Games Workshop. The lore is awesome. They're moving the story on in a cool way.
Right.
It's just like the game is. I'm hoping to start playing the game again soon with some friends who are getting really frothy because we've just seen the new expansion as of this recording. The new expansion for Hive Secundus with malformed gene stealers.
Ooh. And
the return of Spirers.
They're back.
Really cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
We will in that case have to do.
We'll have to do a
Necromunda. And that so actually is quite good because we don't have anything planned for next episode.
Well, there we go. So we might delve into
Hive of Necromunda.
Yeah.
But
as an aside, we're just saying is that a lot of these cool things. I think the thing is that the thing that makes Games Workshop's worlds last so long is that depth.
Yes.
it's the same reason why Star Trek has been around for so long, or Star Wars, is that there's so much
other stuff
around it. Like, you know the world, and you can, even if it's not being depicted on the screen, you still know that there are people and factions and out there doing their thing, and their cultures are in a certain way and whatever.
Yeah, I think it works really well for Games Workshop, where you can have an entire chapter of Space Marines like the Black Templars.
Yeah,
go off, get involved in a solar system changing event.
Yeah,
that has literally no effect on the Blood Ravens at the other side of the galaxy.
Yeah, because it's a drop in the bucket.
It's literally
that's the great thing about the galaxy. Yeah, Games Workshop is one of the few science fiction fantasies. 40K is one of the few science fiction worlds, I think, that really does scale well.
Yeah,
that really gives you that sense that, like, even between solar systems is like the freaking like massive difference in time between. Like, you have these sectors where there's a few like planets and a few systems that are vaguely joined by stable warp routes, but even then they're like, it's going to take me like 5 or 6, might take me like a few days to get from A to B.
Yeah.
In that sector, and that sector's got to kind of look after itself.
Yeah.
Because it's like, to get any reinforcements is going to take months, if not years, from anywhere else.
Yeah. Heaven forbid an orc war turn up unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Because you're like. Well, we need to send for help. How long can we hold out? About 4 months. How long are they going to take to get here? Anything up to a year.
Well, a year would be quick.
How? And the other thing you've got to look at is how important are we?
Yeah, exactly.
Because
we think we're quite important because we're the capital world of this subsector. Yeah. Yes, but your subsector doesn't make sporks or something.
You are not particularly important, so we might send somebody to look in on you. Yeah. In a couple of years' time, see how you're getting on.
And I think, that's what the Games Workshop does really well, is that sense of scale and depth.
So, and conversely, into fantasy, what I think it does really well, whereas because you can't have that scale, so it's one planet. Although it will take you a bit of time to get across.
For those people who want to know, the Warhammer world was, I believe, because if you look at a map of the Warhammer world, it looks vaguely similar to the real world.
Yes,
it's got similar continents. Yeah. However, if I remember rightly, the planet is roughly 1.5 times the size of Earth.
Yeah.
So if you look at like what is effectively Europe and the Empire, you're like, take sort of Germany, Austria, all those countries, and then like 50% bigger.
Yeah.
That is how big that particular area is.
It's a lot bigger, so it takes a little bit more time.
Yes.
But what I think fantasy does better is its individual character stories.
Yeah.
So you have, for example, Archaon, the Ever Chosen. His story goes on for quite a long time.
Yes.
By the way, do you remember what his original name was? Because we didn't cover this at the start.
No, there's one thing I've not...
Alright, so I have it here.
Yeah.
And his name was Diedrich Kastner.
Ooh.
And he was a Templar of the Order of the Twin-Tailed Orb.
Yes.
And he was born a few years after Magnus the Pious defeated the Chaos thing. So there you go. So that's who he was.
So he's actually about 200 years old.
Yes, he's
roughly
quite getting on a bit.
Yeah.
But what I think, like I said, what I think fantasy does really well is these individual character stories. So you've got the likes of Archaon, you've got the likes of Gotrek and Felix,
Tyrion, Teclis,
Nagash, Malekith, his mum, Morathi, because
etc. All of these,
all these characters that have all this, and if you pay attention, they all interact with each other. In even the very briefest of senses, they cross paths.
Because, they're all part of the web.
Through time, they're just sort of... And it's all... And to actually keep track of that...
Yeah.
Good God, that must have been hard work.
Yes.
Because if you write one thing wrong, somebody will notice.
Well, this is the classic Manfred von Carstein.
Manfred von Carstein.
Where Manfred von Carstein was killed at the Battle of Helfen, originally. He was
he was dead.
Dead forever. But then Nigel Stillman came along and wrote something, I don't know exactly where it is, where he was alive again, doing things, he was back again. So they actually retconned that into the lore, that he was accidentally resurrected by the necromancer Stillman, which I always find absolutely hilarious, is that, they took that retcon and were like, oh crap, we made a mistake, and then they sort of folded it back into the story.
Yeah, I think they've done it a couple of times in 40k as well.
Yeah.
Where they've someone has written something, and someone has spotted it and gone, has that gone to publishing yet? Yes. shit.
Yeah.
we need to... Mephiston.
Calistarius.
Yeah, Calistarius.
Yeah, they put him in the Space Hulk box. They named the guy in Space Hulk Calistarius.
Yep.
And then somebody pointed out and was like, hang on, you know that Calistarius is Mephiston before he becomes Mephiston, right? And they were like, oh, crap.
Yes.
Yeah. And then in the next Blood Angel book, they're like, here is the heraldry, because they obviously...
Yeah.
Calistarius has particular heraldry, because they all have their own unique heraldries in the Space Hulk book. They were like, this was Mephiston's one, but he was Calistarius. They're like, yeah, it is him. We see that. You know,
we got it.
We got it. Yeah.
But yeah, if you write something like because you simply don't know, you have to either really quickly retcon something,
yes,
or really quickly like make some shit up to make it make sense.
But I also think that, like I said, this is what's between good lore and bad lore. I think for me anyway, is that if you know the world well enough. You can, I've always said, you can get from point A to point B in the lore, following the rules of the system.
Yeah.
You can give me, I reckon you could give me any point A and point B, and I could find a way, with the lore that we currently have, to make that fit.
Yeah.
Without it being and I think that's the key. It's like, when you just write some stuff and you're like, oh, this will be fun and cool, this is when people start rejecting, like the whole Necrons and Blood Angels teaming up thing was one of those things that got massively derided.
Yeah,
and meaned on and joked about, and I agree. It felt really like.
Oh, you see, I don't agree. I disagree.
At the time, it felt to a lot of people that like.
Yeah, I think people sort of.
But it was just they'd given Necrons kind of personality.
Yeah.
So for most of us old beardy types, we were like, but Necrons are these unknowable things that hate every living thing. So why would they team up with somebody? And sort of brofist everything. It was it became this big memeable moment.
So the explanation which they gave, I believe, later on, because they do the end of that conflict, the Necrons, and it's against the Tyranids.
Yes, because the Cryptus
campaign.
Yeah,
and essentially the Blood Angels are getting beat, and the Necrons are getting beat on two different fronts, and a Necron lord comes to whoever's in charge of the Blood Angels at the time, because Dante hadn't arrived yet, and went, we're losing and you're losing.
Yeah.
If you buy us enough time to turn on this big fucking thing we've got in space, we will blat all the ones in space and you can mop up what's on the ground.
Yeah.
And obviously the Blood Angels go, well, as long as you don't shoot us afterwards. And the Necrons go, well, just the same applies to you. You know, you're not notorious for gunning down Necrons, so let's not pretend that either one of us is the bad guy here.
Yeah.
And they both go, we'll beat the Tyranids and go our separate ways. And they go, yes. And they do that simply and the Blood Angels buy the Necrons enough time to absorb enough power to turn on their mega uber weapon.
The defuckinator.
The debugging spray.
Yeah.
And they debug space.
Yes.
But there's still a lot of Tyranids around, and the Blood Angels are not doing very well. Dante turns up to help, but the Necrons are like, well, we did our bit. We're off. See ya. And they bog off and leave them. So when you look at it like that, they didn't really go, hey, friend.
Yes, but the way it's first kind of... it's just a throwaway thing.
Yeah.
People were like, what the fuck? That makes no sense. The same thing with Belisarius Call.
Yeah.
And the fact that they had to write the great work to kind of go, no, this is not how it went down. Yeah, this is how it went down.
Let's do this sensibly.
Massage. Yeah, there's a thing, sometimes writers kind of go, boom, and drop something in. And then somebody else has to come along later and kind of massage it in and make sense.
Yeah, we've just had a recent one with the female custodians. We just did an entire episode on it where they just dropped a line in a book. How much better would that have been if they'd have done anything else?
Again, massage, it can make it important.
Make it a big deal. It is a big deal. Make it a big deal. The alliance...
Yeah, because again, you can make it a small deal in lore, but a big deal... For us.
Yeah. And it's like the thing with the Necrons and the Blood Angels, because there is a line again in the Devastation of Baal, this is the obligatory reference, where one of the captains says to Dante, says, despite the fact that the Necrons have worked with us a couple of times, we still know that we can't trust them.
Yes.
They know that when it comes down to it, the Necrons don't want chaos in the world, and they will align with anybody to stop that happening, because that's their big thing. But if they're getting beat by someone else, and there's another force that will help them, they will align with them until such a time their goal has been achieved, and then you know they're turning on.
The thing is, there's been a lot of like that happening with a lot of the other races. Obviously, there's a lot of human Eldar interactions and stuff like that, for example, and occasional human Tau interactions for the same reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was, at the time, it was dropped on us. It was kind of like, it was a throwaway thing, and it seemed a bit far-fetched. And it was just at the time that the Necrons were transitioning into more of an active force.
Yes.
Than they were just this unknowable, unstoppable Legion of Death.
Yeah, because previously
it would be like, what, Necrons don't work with anyone. They don't work like that. They do whatever it is that's in their programming, and they just like eradicate all life and go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Like,
but now they're awake.
Now they're awake and have machinations.
Yes. And all the lords have different plots.
But yeah, I love how we've massively divulged
there. But yeah, so...
But we said about like the deep dive, the depth of lore, because I'll circle back around to the 5th character, the actual Undivided character that we haven't mentioned from the Swords of Chaos. I'm in the Storm of Chaos book again, and that is Vardic Crom, the Herald of Archaon.
Ooh.
He just quickly, because his deal was basically to wander around sort of ahead of Archaon's main force, kind of fighting other tribes and things like that, and trying to fight. He was like, if you can best me, or you can like come close to a fight with me, then you're good enough to join the Swords of Chaos. He was basically like the recruitment man, hype man for
hype man. He was the Bobby the Brain Heenan of the whole outfit.
He was, but he could also wrestle. So he would wrestle people. You took me to a good match. It's a 2 out of 3 falls match. You know, I got the second fall, so. But you did really well, so you want to come in and join us.
Yeah.
That was his whole shtick.
Right.
Yeah, he was a cool little character. His model's quite nice. He did look like a bit of a mini Archaon as well. Kind of cute. They had to paint him brass more than like the black armour, just to make him look like he wasn't just a mini Archaon.
Just a smaller version of the other one.
Yeah. That's it, and that pretty much brings us to most of the Undivided characters. Yes. There are a couple of others that came in later. Wulfric the Wanderer.
Yeah. So Wulfric was just a raider. Basically.
He's like a proper Norse raider.
The atypical Viking raider.
Except carrying massive amounts of plate mail because he becomes a Chaos Warrior. And he just raids around the old world, pissing people off.
Yeah. But Archaon was the reason, really, we did the second episode.
Archaon and Bellicor. They're the two most
important ones.
Yes.
Wulfric's cool, but Archaon
is way cooler.
Way cooler. It is important to note that Archaon, in the end times... I know you don't like it, Pete.
No.
He is still around.
Oh yes, because he does survive.
Survives the end times
and moves on to trying to keep. He got beaten, but he'll be back next time, Gadget.
Yeah. Because unlike other Ever-Chosens, when he fails in what he is attempting, the Chaos Gods don't seem to want to turn him into a sword.
Yeah, well, he didn't really fail essentially, because they retconned it so that he didn't fail. He did actually manage to destroy the entirety of the fantasy world.
Yes.
And then we move into the realms of Sigmar, and he's still the Ever-Chosen of the mortal followers of Chaos.
Yes.
Doing funky things. We've just seen... he's one of his new lieutenants. At time of recording, has just been released. I think she's a mighty powerful Chaos. She has a cool backstory.
Oh right,
the model's really cool. I can't remember, but
one for future.
One for future. We might dabble into one of the things we might dabble into if it were Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, we do need to do a little bit on Age of Sigmar.
We should do. My problem is I find the lore for Age of Sigmar very opaque.
I don't know anything about it. So
I've tried. I keep seeing some things, and I watch their preview shows, and I'm like. Oh, that sounds pretty cool.
I know one thing. The models for Age of Sigmar are beautiful.
They are.
And
have you seen the new Skaven from the
I have not yet. No, I will.
I would say go home and have a look at them on Warhammer Community.
Warhammer Community. Yes, there's a plug for you, Games Workshop.
Yeah.
No, we don't get paid for that.
No.
So with that, the things we can possibly get paid for.
Yes.
If you would like to leave a follow on LD Gaming Live on Twitch or Onyx Dragon Gaming on Twitch. You can find us at all the social medias under both of those names, which is Lazy Dragon Gaming and Onyx Dragon Gaming. If you are listening on YouTube, we would like it if you would leave us a subscription. They are completely free. Yes. You don't have to give us any money. Ring the little bell to get notified. If there is anything you want to ask us, any questions,
any law-based questions,
law-based questions, you can ask us game-related questions, but we are just going to guess.
We'll give you a ruling. It might not be correct.
But yeah, so if you could do that, if you're listening on a Spotify place, if you would leave us a review, that would be fantastic. Mm-hmm. So to all our listeners throughout the world, we are global.
Indeed.
But we are not yet interstellar. We are still waiting for...
Interplanetary. We haven't even managed to break the solar system.
Oh, we're not out of the solar
Technically,
system.
it's interplanetary.
Interplanetary. We would like...
We'd like to be interplanetary. If you're listening to us on Mars or one of the moons of Jupiter, please
let us know.
Let us know.
And if you have any questions about what the hell we're talking
about what Earth life is like, we will tell you.
We will tell you. But until then, it is goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from her.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.